It's one of those situations where it's New Year's, so people typically on New Year's midnight hits on the 31st, and it's a new year coming in. So I know we were having a conversation about resolutions, and recently a lot of us stayed up all night and we watched that crystal ball drop in Manhattan, and we counted down the seconds to a new year. A lot of people start making new goals for 2017, and typically they refer to them as New Year's resolutions. For me, a lot of people start texting me with those firework displays and telling me, "Hey Ken, maybe this year you'll help me get a new job." So I'm here for you, but I need you to be a little more specific. But with that being said, I know we had a conversation maybe about a week or two ago, and you had an interesting take on the whole idea of a New Year's resolution. You want to speak a little bit about that?
Yes, and so you know how I'm sure many of us have seen it. If maybe some of us listening have put the post together, and I used to think about it like this: as a new year approaches, it's new year, new me, right? But as I've gotten older, I kind of dispel with the new year, new me. It's new. I like to think of it as more new and improved. And I struggle with the term resolution because a resolution to me feels rigid, right? A resolution is something that it's like a hard and fast decision to do or not do something. And while that in and of themselves is not a problem, most people don't stick to their resolution. So if you ask somebody who starts January 1 wanting to have, improve their health or improve their diet, ask them by February 15th how they're doing, chances are not because they're not motivated, not because they're not well-intentioned, but because that resolution, all it was in isolation. So when I think about starting the new year and thinking about the things that you're trying to accomplish, you want to think about the fact that you have to put in place systems and actions in order to allow that resolution to become a reality. So I think about it more in the sense of goal setting and thinking about what are the number of activities and things that I'm going to have to do to allow myself to reach this goal. So for example, if one of your goals, like you mentioned, is to get a new job, you can't just say, I'm going to get a new job in 2017, right? You have to recognize that there are several steps and probably several months of work that you need to do in order to make that happen. So a resolution in and of itself is not a problem, but recognizing that a resolution without the attached plan of action means nothing. And so to just new year, new me, and I have all these resolutions, what's next?
Right, exactly. I think you make a valid point when speaking about putting in the work. A lot of people set this resolution, but they haven't changed some of their habits and the things that they need to do to allow them to move forward and achieve what they've set out to accomplish. So what we've seen a lot is that people will set a resolution, if you may. They'll set a resolution, and then we'll map out a plan. I know we spoke at the beginning of the show during the drop from Terry Tobin. Terry, we really appreciate the drop. We spoke about the Career Seekers show being a virtual GPS to your career destination. And a lot of times what we've seen is that when we map it out, and it's a process, it's not going to happen overnight, but people aren't willing to put in the work. They always want to start it, and then because they receive some type of roadblock, they immediately jump off the path and go in another direction. So it's really hard for us from the recruitment perspective to kind of keep people in line. What do you do as a career coach to hold people accountable to the goals?
Well, it really starts with making sure that the client or that the individual is the one setting the goals for themselves. So one of the things that I love about coaching is that it is driven by the client. It's driven by the person who's being coached. So I, as the coach, I'm not setting the objectives. It's whatever the client is coming to me saying that they want to work on. So if the idea is that you want to update your resume, I'm not placing that objective on you. And so when something is driven from within you, then there's more what they call intrinsic motivation, internal motivation, as opposed to someone telling you have to do something. You have set this expectation and this desire to do it for yourself. And so from there, we develop a plan of action to say, okay, well, if your objective is to update your resume, well, then what do we need to do that? First of all, let's gather all of the versions of your resume that you have, and let's see what we're starting from. And from there, we develop a plan of action, small, bite-sized steps. The other thing I think that you mentioned is a lot of times people are trying to take on too much at one time. They're thinking of this new job that they want to have. They already see themselves at the finish line, and they haven't identified the small things that they need to do in order to make that goal a reality. And so what I try to do is just break down as many small discrete tasks as I can so that my clients are able to walk through a plan of action to get them from where they are to where they want to be.
You know what, that's a great approach. Wow, incredible. Once again, all of our social media feeds can be found at www.careerseekers.work. It's the Career Seekers Show, live on WPPM-LP Philadelphia. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson. Tiffany Southerland, Alberta Bertolino, videographer Will Martin. We're here every Wednesday from 4 to 5. Please continue to check in with us. We have a ton of information we want to share. We're really excited for the second segment of the show. We have Carla Baptiste, Career Center Manager at the Urban League of Philadelphia, coming in to speak to us about an upcoming event, the MLK Day Career Fair, which will take place January 16th at Girard College. So Carla will be here after the first set to speak to us about things going on at the Career Fair. Tiff, I want to speak to you now that even before Carla's here. Career fairs are big. Do you see some other things that people need to do at the beginning of the year, kind of to get some momentum going, kind of to take their career search from I guess off of E, push the start button and get it moving forward? What are some things you suggest as a career coach that people need to do to kind of push them in the right direction?
I think it starts with really getting clear about what you actually want. And I think a lot of times people, and I can speak from my own professional journey, is, we want a job, or we want a career direction that we think that is popular, or that everybody thinks that we should do. So for example, now social media is really popular, or marketing is popular, so everybody wants to be an online marketer, everybody wants to do something in social media, everybody wants to do this or that.
Sure.
And you have to really personally identify. I think at the beginning of the year is a great time to think about it. You reflect on the last year, reflect on the work that you've done, or the things that you may have hoped that you did and didn't quite get around to, and say, okay, well, now that it's a new year, where can I begin? What do I actually want to be working towards? So when you have generally, maybe it's a field that you want to go in, or not necessarily a title that you have in mind, but when you can narrow down the thing that you want, even if it's just a feeling that you want in the work that you do. So if you want to feel like you're impacting people directly, then that takes you away from doing certain kinds of work and opens the possibility of to do other kinds of work.
Sure.
So really just getting clear about your the thing that you're trying to do and work towards, and then kind of working backwards from there.
Gotcha.
And instead of kind of either pigeonholing yourself or attaching yourself to a direction that is someone else's dream and someone else's definition of success, instead of your own.
That's a really interesting point. I teach a class here in Philadelphia, actually, and one of the things we spoke about yesterday, I was working with some career seekers, and we spoke about, the pressure to pursue a career path that's not necessarily yours, and what that looks like to people. And we had an individual who spoke about a job that they took just because it was suggested that they move in that direction. They had no passion or purpose in that particular field, but they pursued it nonetheless. And now it's 5 years later, and they're deciding that this really isn't for them. So you find that happens often, that people take on other people's aspirations.
Absolutely. And I can even speak to my own professional journey. And I like I mentioned, I'm an attorney, and I work in recruiting at a law firm now, but I love the law, I love going to law school, but that was a decision. It wasn't until I'd been in the field that I realized that I didn't necessarily, it's almost like I didn't make this decision myself, kind of, and I went along that path because I thought it was the right thing that I should have been doing. And I think a lot of people wake up, and people who from all kinds of professions, people who are doing anything from white collar work all the way down to different types of blue collar fields, because someone else told them that it would be a good thing that they could do. And so when you find yourself in that kind of situation, it really requires a lot of self-reflection in order to make the decision that you are not going to follow someone else's dreams or objectives just for the sake of saying that you did. But instead, you have to it almost takes some courage, a certain amount of courage, to say, well, you know what, I actually don't want to do that thing anymore. I want to do this thing that I care about, and it might be unpopular, it might not pay a lot, it might require you to make a strong pivot in a different direction, but it's definitely possible to pursue things that are your own definition of success as opposed to things that have been defined by other people.
Great. So we actually, we're going to kind of move forward in the show where Alberta Bertolino is calling in. Once again, Alberta is the resident recruitment coach. We wanted to speak to Alberta today because she's out here, she's busy, she's a recruiter, she has a ton of recs, she's out here hiring people, so she really has her finger on the pulse of what hiring managers are looking for in candidates, and we just believe that's information that we need to share with the Career Seeker team. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back after the break, we'll have Alberta Bertolino should be on the line with us, and it's Career Seekers Radio, live on WPPM FM 106.5.